Good morning. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me, Shreyanshi Singh and Kanishka Sarkar. And over the next 1 hour, we'll get you updates from within the country as well as across the globe. Also tell you which stocks you should be keeping on your radar bright and early this morning. And a lot of news to track, Kanishka.
Well, absolutely. Before we get you some market updates, let's first get you some more domestic updates. The MEA announced a flurry of decisions regarding Pakistan in response to the Pahalgam terror attack, which resulted in the death of at least 28 people and severely injured several. Now, in a strongly worded briefing, the Ministry of External Affairs has laid out 6 firm measures targeting Pakistan, citing its continued support for cross-border terrorism. Now, the MEA has announced that Indus Water Treaty will be held in abeyance. The integrated checkpost will be closed immediately. Pakistan nationals will not be permitted to travel to India under the SAARC visa. India has also announced that it was withdrawing its own defense advisors from Islamabad High Commission. And the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri has also emphasized that this isn't just an Indian issue, it's a global concern, in fact. Now, the government's actions come after an urgent meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security as the nationwide condemnation pours in. Now, defense experts on the barbaric attack on the innocent tourists. Listen in.
The Cabinet Committee on Security, under the chairmanship of the Honorable Prime Minister, the CCS was briefed in detail on the terrorist attack on 22nd April 2025 in Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir, in which 25 Indians and 1 Nepali citizen were killed. A number of others sustained injuries. The CCS condemned the attack in the strongest terms and expressed its deepest condolences to the families of the victims and hoped for the early recovery of the injured. Strong expressions of support and solidarity have been received from many governments around the world, which have unequivocally condemned this terror attack. The CCS recorded its appreciation for such sentiments, which reflect zero tolerance for terrorism. In the briefing to the CCS, the cross-border linkages of the terrorist attack were brought out. It was noted that this attack came in the wake of the successful holding of the elections in the Union Territory and its steady progress towards economic growth and development. Recognizing the seriousness of this terrorist attack, the CCS decided upon the following measures. 1. The Indus Waters Treaty of 1960 will be held in abeyance with immediate effect until Pakistan credibly and irrevocably abjures its support for cross-border terrorism. 2. The integrated checkpost Atari will be closed with immediate effect. Those who have crossed over with valid endorsements may return through that route before 1 May 2025. 3. Pakistani nationals will not be permitted to travel to India under the SAARC visa exemption scheme visas. Any SVES visas issued in the past to Pakistani nationals are deemed cancelled. Any Pakistani national currently in India under SVES visa has 48 hours to leave India. 4. The defense, military, naval and air advisors in the Pakistani High Commission in New Delhi are declared persona non grata. They have a week to leave India. India will be withdrawing its own defense, navy and air advisors from the Indian High Commission in Islamabad. These posts in the respective High Commissions are deemed annulled. 5 support staff of the service advisors will also be withdrawn from both High Commissions. 5. The overall strength of the High Commissions will be brought down to 30 from the present 55 through further reductions to be effected by 1st May 2025. The CCS reviewed the overall security situation and directed all forces to maintain high vigil. It resolved that the perpetrators of this attack will be brought to justice and their sponsors held to account. As with the recent extradition of Tahawur Rana, India will be unrelenting in the pursuit of those who have committed acts of terror or conspired to make them possible.
All right, then that's the word coming in from Vikram Misri, who's the Foreign Secretary, also reiterating the commitment when it comes to the zero tolerance policy on terrorism that India has. Other than that, of course, you do have Pakistan also saying that India cannot suspend the treaty unilaterally. So let's see how that pans out. But in the meanwhile, in fact, we also caught up with some defense experts on the barbaric attack. Let's go across and listen in to what they had to say.
There is a war plan involving these people. I mean, that war plan is for us to Google and take it in a way. It is available. The first action by Pakistan is to unleash terror on the opponent. In their case, India. So it is like sending your mercenaries first, and then the main army will move in. We have Apaches come in now. We have the attack helicopters, indigenous attack helicopters, Prachand. All this is a move or capability building towards fighting in the valley and fighting in the high mountainous regions. So, I mean, we didn't spend billions of dollars just to sit across the table or talk to Pakistan, give them the doors here. No. Our final aim, like Rajnath Singh ji said from the floor of the parliament, our final aim is to get POK back with our J&K. That is our final aim. And if they do it peacefully, they don't have to shed any blood. And we want to do it peacefully. But if they want it the other way, then so be it. We'll give them the other way.
We have had our armed conflict, which has not yielded the desired results. And therefore, frankly speaking, we have the guerrilla war going on between the two countries, and Kashmir remains, as you said, the flashpoint. So that has not yielded the result. But at the same time, ultimately, what we see that the military and the army is not the solution. Ultimately, we have to sit across the table. At this point in time, we have the best security arrangement, the security grid which the government of India has tightened. We cannot do anything more because we have deployed 1/3 of our army. At the same time, and at the same time, if you look at the legal framework is also very much tightened, which we do not have, no other country has it. And almost all the separatists and the sympathizers of the separatism, they have been put behind the bars.
All right, that's the word coming in from defense expert when it comes to the strong measures that India has taken. Now, moving on, sources also tell us that the central government is likely to chair an all-party meeting today, which will be chaired by Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. Let's go across to Samir for all the details on that front.
Prime Minister Modi-led central government has convened an all-party meeting today on the issue of the Pahalgam terror strike. But we are picking up from our sources that this all-party meeting is likely to be chaired by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. And the primary purpose of this meeting is to apprise the opposition, the political parties, about the Pahalgam hill station terror strike and the big decisions that has been taken up by the government during the CCS, the Cabinet Committee on Security meeting. So earlier it was air strike, but now post the Pahalgam terror strike, the central government has done a diplomatic strike on Pakistan, taken a big decision such as the abeyance of Indus Water Treaty, even downsizing the staff which is there at Pakistan embassy. So these sort of big decisions have been taken up by the central government in its CCS meeting, and these all decisions will be apprised to the political parties. Not just this, government also understands that during this sensitive time, where the country demands for a big action against the neighbor Pakistan, the political parties will also join hands with the central government, standing in solidarity, in unity, and they will come and they will strongly support the big decisions taken up by the central government. Earlier, we have seen that the Congress, they demanded for an all-party meeting. They asked that whatever the steps the government is taking, that should be apprised. And now, post the CCS meeting, this all-party meeting is happening, and it is likely to be chaired by Union Minister Rajnath Singh. And the government is also trying to prepare itself with all sort of possible steps or the retaliation that they might face from Pakistan or similar allies of Pakistan. So government is trying to be fully prepared along with the support from the political parties in these sensitive times.
Well, absolutely. Thanks, Samir, for getting us that update coming in as far as that particular meeting is concerned. But moving on then, let's get you a check going as far as Wall Street is concerned. The indices, in fact, have had a decent week thus far. The S&P 500 gained almost 1.7% yesterday. You did have the Nasdaq Composite also jumping 2.5%. Even when you take a look at the 30 stock Dow, that added more than 400 points. While the three indexes posted a second consecutive winning session, they ended the day well off their highs. Now, mind you that at one point on Wednesday, the Dow, in fact, was up more than 1,100 points. Now, stocks seem to get a lift on hopes that trade tensions between the US and China would ease. So that is something that was a little bit of a breather coming in earlier this week. Of course, you did have US President Donald Trump saying that he's willing to take a less confrontational approach towards trade talks with Beijing. All three of the major averages are on pace for weekly gains, like I mentioned, with the Nasdaq up 2.5%. Thereabout, S&P 500 up nearly 1.8% and Dow also on pace for a 1.2% advance. In this particular period, of course, you do have the dollar. That has also bounced back versus euro, other currencies as well, on the back of these easing trade as well as Fed tensions. And that is something that you've seen fueling the greenback as well, Kanishka.
Well, absolutely. While markets are rising, oil has fallen 2%. This is amid reports that OPEC Plus could be mulling accelerating output. Now, Brent crude settled down to $1.3, down almost 2% down, that is, at $66 a barrel, while US WTI ended over 2% lower at around $62 level. Now, this downturn comes amid reports that the OPEC Plus would consider accelerating its oil output increases in June. Now, however, these losses were curbed following a report that US President Donald Trump may be cutting tariffs on Chinese imports. Now, the global benchmark, that is Brent, has hit a session high at $68, its highest since April 4th, before the OPEC Plus news came in. Now, as per Reuters, several OPEC Plus members will suggest that the group accelerate oil output increases for a second consecutive month in June. Now, this as there have been recent tensions among OPEC Plus members over the compliance with production quotas. Now, the market also saw some support after data showed that US crude stockpiles rose unexpectedly last week, while both gasoline and distillate inventories fell more than expected. Meanwhile, gold extended its retreat from an all-time high, falling more than 3% as appetite for riskier assets improved after Trump said that he has no plans to fire US Fed's chief and also signaled progress with China on the tariff front. Now, spot gold slipped 3% to $3,281 an ounce after hitting a record high of $3,500 in the previous session. Remember, gold has so far gained more than 26% since the start of 2025.
Moving on, tell you what, let's also take a look at the events that you should be then watching out for from India. Of course, you do have the weekly Nifty expiry. Other than that, from the US, there's initial jobless claims data for any kind of cues coming in as far as the labor market is concerned. And that is something that we're watching out for from the US. But moving on, in terms of the fourth quarter earnings, you do have a whole host of companies to keep an eye on: Tech Mahindra, HUL, Nestle India, SBI Life, as well as Axis Bank. So lots of companies to keep an eye on in terms of the fourth quarter earnings. And in terms of corporate action as well, you do have a few counters that will be in focus on the back of mulling fundraise. So I'm talking about Axis Bank yet again making it to this particular list as well. Aavas Financiers as well as Devyani International also the one to watch out for. And it's the last day to buy shares to be eligible for dividend as far as Muthoot Finance is concerned. So also keep an eye on that particular counter.
Lots of cues to watch out for today. Well, we're on to the top headlines that we're tracking at this hour. Now, US President Donald Trump has set a 25% tariff imposed on cars imported from Canada to the US, could go even higher. Now, the move, of course, is aimed at administration's commitment to bolstering domestic auto manufacturing. It is important to know that the North American auto industry is highly interconnected, with vehicles often crossing the US-Canada border multiple times during the manufacturing process. Now, Trump has expressed a desire to limit Canada's involvement in the US automobile sector.
Absolutely, that's also something that we're looking at, and lots of headlines that we have to track. Keeping it with the tariff rhetoric, then US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has now hinted at a trade deal in the works with China, also calling it an opportunity for a big deal. In fact, Bessent in his address outlined what he called a blueprint to restore equilibrium to the global financial system, as well as the institutions designed to uphold it, specifically the World Bank and the IMF. Additionally, he also said that the intentional policy choices by other countries have hollowed out America's manufacturing sector and undermined our critical supply chains, putting our national and economic security at risk, is the word coming in from him, exactly calling the persistent trade imbalances unsustainable.
Meanwhile, European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde has said that US tariffs could have a disinflationary impact in Europe if there are no European countermeasures, but they prompt China to reroute exports to the region. According to Lagarde, tariffs could push up inflation in the US, but it could have the opposite effect in Europe. Although the net inflation outcome was still uncertain given the variety of factors at play, she also said that the central bank could not exclude the possibility of revisiting the growth forecast when it makes its new projection in June in the light of Trump's tariffs.
All right, and lots of headlines to keep track of bright and early this morning. But tell you what, it's time for a very quick breather on the show. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, we've been getting you updates coming in from Pahalgam in terms of the diplomatic strike and India's reaction when it comes to the entire issue. Let's go across to Pradeep Datta, who's standing right outside the Pakistan High Commission. Remember, last night, MEA, like we told you, has announced a slew of announcements last night regarding Pakistan in response to the Pahalgam terror attack. The MEA announced that Pakistani nationals will not be permitted to travel to India under SAARC visa. India also announced that it was withdrawing its own defense advisors from Islamabad High Commission. Pradeep, what is the latest that you're bringing in?
Aftermath Pulwama attack in which 27 Indians were killed, and India has taken very strong decisions. The decisions are that India is not going to bend before terror, but India is going to beat terror. And how to beat terror? India is going to hit Pakistan hard where it's going to hurt them most. We saw that in 2016 when the Uri attack was carried out. That was the time when we saw the paradigm shift in the military strategy. That time, India was able to carry out the first surgical strike. India was able to cross line of control and decimate some of the launch pads. Again, in 2019, when there was a Pulwama bombing, that time again, India this time carried out aerial surgical strike, penetrating deep inside Pakistani territory, going 65 kilometers inside Pakistan and decimating and demolishing Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters. And this time it will not be wrong that after 2.5-hour CCS meeting, Prime Minister finally decided this time a surgical strike of different kind. It was an economic and diplomatic surgical strike. Why I'm saying economical surgical strike? Because India has decided to suspend 1960 Indus Water Treaty, because as per Indus Water Treaty, there are 6 rivers. With 3 rivers like Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, water can flow to Pakistan, while as Ravi, Satluj, Byas, water is to be utilized by India. But now, after suspending this treaty, that means the water will be blocked, and this is definitely going to affect their irrigation. This is going to affect their power supply. This is also going to affect their industries. So that way, India is going to hit them hard. And so far as other diplomatic decisions are taken, because India has made it clear earlier also, talks and terror can't go together the same way. Water and blood can't flow together, and also they don't want to engage with a nation that keeps on backstabbing India. That's one of the reasons that they have expelled 3 of their military attaches. They had been declared persona non grata, and late last night, Ahmad Saad Waraich, who was charged the affairs of the Pakistan, he was summoned by Indian External Affairs Ministry, and he was handed over the persona non grata note, and they had been asked to leave India within a week. Besides this, integrated Atari checkpoint has also been closed with immediate effect. The people who had got the valid visa had come out of this place. They had had been asked to leave by May 1st. And even the SARC exemption visa will not be now permitted to the Pakistanis, that whosoever has come over on that visa, they had been given 48 hours time to leave this place. Because all this decision has been taken because India wanted to take a tough stand. It has been happening again and again. India can't tolerate, because enough is enough. That is what actually is the message from the Indian side, because we have seen that off and on they keep on targeting India. They keep on continuing with their policy of bleeding India 1,000 cuts. So this time India made it clear: one, water and blood will not flow together. Second, why to engage with a country that keeps on backstabbing India? So they have decided that certain measures are to be taken. But so far as the kinetic measures are concerned, because last time we saw the surgical strike, that will not be discussed in open. That will be done at appropriate time, whatever country feels fit to do that. But yes, certain measures are being taken. Already we have seen the defense minister has also made it clear that they will not only be going after those 4 terrorists who were responsible for this dastardly act, but the people who had been sponsoring this terror, they will be dealing with them. That means they will be dealing with both the proxies as well as Pakistan strongly. That is India's message, and that is what actually is going to happen. That means now they are going to downgrade diplomatic relations. Earlier there used to be number used to be 50 on both the Indian High Commission as the Pakistan High Commission. Now the number will be brought to 30. And already they have expelled 3 of their military attaches, declared non-persona grata, and they had been given a week's time to leave this place. And accordingly, they are also going to withdraw their staff members from Indian High Commission in Pakistan, and they will also be brought to India.
Thank you, Pradeep, for joining us. We also have SP Vaid, who's the former Director General of Police of the Jammu and Kashmir Police, and Ashok Sajanhar, who's the former Ambassador, joining us to discuss the impact of the measures that India has taken against the backdrop of the Pahalgam attack. Now, Mr. Vaid, I want to ask you first. Now, Pakistan has said that India can't suspend Indus Water Treaty unilaterally. Now, it took the countries 9 years to find consensus when it comes to this treaty. What does this mean? What are the next steps that are going to take place? If you could help us explain that.
See, cancelling Indus Border Treaty will have a lot of impact on Pakistan. If you see, this was signed in 1960, and the major chunk of the border at that time, 70% of it was given to Pakistan. As Pradeep was saying, the Indus River, the Chenab and Jhelum, which actually have a huge quantity of water, have been given to Pakistan, and 3 rivers of Punjab, Bias, Satluj and Ravi, given to India. And it was lopsided. In fact, this agreement I was going through, I don't know why the then Prime Minister was so liberal, and how our people allowed this kind of agreement. But anyway, whatever happened. I think it's a very good step the government of India has taken, and I think it will impact not only Pakistan's electricity, their irrigation, their it will affect their agriculture. It will even drinking water will have problem. But we need to build infrastructure. We earlier, whenever if you recall, whenever we used to raise the height of the dam on Chenab River, they will immediately object, and then we allow them for inspection. And Pakistan was actually using Indus Water Treaty to embarrass and harass India. I have seen for years together raising objections, not responding to India's replies, so that caste escalation takes place in all the power projects. And this is blackmailing. This is again, you can say, different kind of terror, different kind of which Pakistan army was actually waging against India. And it's very appropriate step that will impact Pakistan. It will hurt them. It actually should hurt. As far as other actions, I think India has diplomatically taken very appropriate steps. This is the time we must convey this. We will not tolerate your nonsense. And my another request would be the more than these terrorists, their AQAs, that is Pakistan deep state, which constitutes Pakistan Army and ISI, they need to be made pay for it. Actually, unless it hurts them, the response of India will not be full. I think we must take actions. Obviously, these cannot be discussed in public
Right,
domain.
absolutely. Yes, Mr. Ved. I think what you said just about sums it up, right? There's a very clear message that is being sent. This is Shreyansi as well joining in the conversation. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking time out and joining us. I also wanted to take this point across to Mr. Sajjanar, get his take as well going as far as the Pakistan commentary is concerned when it comes to the Indus Waters Treaty, because they've said that India cannot be suspending it unilaterally. It took the countries, of course, 9 years to find consensus when it comes to this treaty. Mr. Sajjanar, so what does this really mean? What are the next steps according to you?
Thank you very much. I think this is a very significant step, and I agree with what Mr. Ved has said, that this is going to be a very significant blow to Pakistan, to the people of Pakistan, in fact. And, just to give a few numbers, the western rivers of Indus, Jhelum and Chenab, they account for about 99 billion cubic meters of water per year. And out of that, about 90% has been given to Pakistan, only 10% with India. And India can, of course, use the run-of-the-river water for its projects. But there also, Pakistan has not been cooperative. And as far as the eastern rivers are concerned, we get 80%, that is from Indus, Jhelum and Chenab. And those are the western rivers. Bias, Sutlej and Ravi, we get 80%. So Pakistan has got a very generous deal in this, but still it keeps complaining. Right now, I think it is definitely going to hurt the people in their agriculture, in industry also, in daily consumption as well as power production. So, but what was mentioned is that we have to take some action so that the supporters and people who are, as Mr. Rajnath Singh said, those who are behind the curtains, behind closed doors, who are supporting them, they need to be punished, they need to be hurt. And I think that action will, I'm sure, come soon. And it will hit them very, very hard. It will hit them harder than what was done in Uri in 2016 and in Balakot in 2019. It will be significant so that it will act as a deterrent. It will not be a proportional action. It will be, I think, much more than that, so that the message goes out to Pakistan that if it again engages in actions of this nature, then the retribution is going to be very severe.
Well, absolutely. So if you could also help us understand, when it comes to diplomatic relations, there's a lot being undone. As you can see, there's cancellation of visas, and there's a very clear message that India is sending in terms of measures, very strong measures that we have taken. So could you help us explain what do you make of this tectonic shift when it comes to the measures that India has taken, and also the diplomatic ties between the two countries, and how much are you penciling it? What is it that the impact that you're penciling in at this point in time?
You know, it is being brought down really to the most minimal of contacts between the two countries. You would recall that the high commissioners between the two countries, they were withdrawn in 2019 when India had abrogated Article 370. Pakistan then decided to call back its high commissioner. India also called back its high commissioner. So there have been no heads of missions in either of the two high commissions in the two countries. And right now, even the defense attaches, they have been asked to leave. Their staff has been asked to leave. The total number of personnel in the high commissions, that has also been curtailed. Originally, it was 110. From that, it was brought down to 55, and now it has been brought down to 30. So we are retaining our contacts to the absolute minimal. And it is up to Pakistan now. The ball has been very much in their court, that if they abjure irrevocable give up terrorism actions against India, then we can reconsider whether it is the Indus Waters Treaty or as far as the other normal diplomatic contacts are concerned. But otherwise, over the last few years, we see that our interaction has been very, very limited. Even intergovernmental organizations like SARC and others, they are not functioning, principally because Pakistan gives support to terrorism. So I think this will come down even further. But the loser in this is going to be Pakistan, going to be the Pakistan people. But we will need to take action which will hurt the deep state of Pakistan, that is the army and the ISI. And I'm quite confident that action on that front will also be visible very, very soon.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sajjanar, as well as Mr. Ved, for joining us today and helping us understand the impact when it comes to all of these measures. Of course, the losing hand is going to be Pakistan's, and that's the word coming in from Ashok Sajjanar, former ambassador. Moving on then, let's take a look.
Welcome back to ET Now. You're watching Market Cafe with me, Kanishka Sarkar, and Shreyansi Singh. Well, let's get on to some more news updates. My colleague Ankur Mishra is standing by with the minutes of the RBI's Monetary Policy Committee meeting. Let's find out who said what.
India remains relatively less exposed. These are the words which are coming in from Reserve Bank of India Governor Sanjay Malhotra in the minutes of a meeting which happened on 7th to 9th of earlier this month. India is better placed to withstand such spillovers with its growth driven largely by domestic factors. Apart from that, he also mentions that inflation remains well aligned within the target during the current financial year, and more than that, considering the growth and inflation dynamics, monetary policy needs to be accommodative. Therefore, you would remember that MPC had changed its stance from neutral to accommodative in the current policy. If you talk about other members, even Ram Singh believes that inflation levels and volatility are expected to remain within Reserve Bank of India's comfort zone in the near term, and durable softening of food inflation is expected in near future. Nagesh Kumar says that Trump tariffs represent a mixed blessing for India, and Rajiv Ranjan, who is ED at Reserve Bank of India, believes that we need to continue to accord higher weight to growth in our policy setting, and therefore you would have seen that overall MPC tone was tilted towards growth. Apart from that, Reserve Bank of India Deputy Governor M. Rajeshwar Rao believes that promptness is policy actions to deal with any risk to growth inflation balance needs to be watched out for. But overall situation is that where inflation outlook remains benign. Echoing his views was Saugata Bhattacharya, who said that domestic household inflation expectation remain well anchored. And apart from that, one important thing which he mentioned is that as far as the incoming data is concerned, that needs to be taken in consideration by meeting basis.
All right, thanks Ankur for getting us those updates. Tell you what, let's also get to the list of stocks that you should be looking out for bright and early this morning. In fact, Gaurav is standing by with just that list.
Well, yes, let's begin our list today with the list of stocks which can be in focus on the back of the board meeting. So we have got Axis Bank, Aavas Financials, Devyani International. All of these companies are going to hold this board meeting today, and where they will also consider fundraising. Other than that, it is also last day for investors to buy shares of Muthoot Finance to be eligible for dividend. Other than that, UCO Bank is also going to be in focus because board meeting is going to be on 28th of April to consider fundraising via QIP. Bajaj Finance is also in focus on the back of this because the board meeting is going to be on 29th of April, where they will be considering stock split or stock bonus. Other than that, we also have some of the stocks where board has already approved the fundraising. So we have got Biocon, where board has approved fundraising of up to 4,500 crore rupees, NHPC, where board has approved for fundraising of up to 2,000 crore rupees in FY26, and lastly we also have Vedanta, which will be in focus because as per agencies, Vedanta is considering US listing of Zambian company, which is one of its subsidiary, Konkala. So definitely watching on these stocks, and again on the back of the results, we have some stocks which will be in focus. So we have got Persistent System, because strong set of number is what we saw. EBIT margins increase almost to 15.6%, while profitability also increased almost by 6% on a sequential basis. Thyrocare also came up with good set of numbers because revenue increased almost by 20%, while profitability also increased by 25%. Canfin Homes also came up with good set of numbers because when we talk about net interest margins, we saw an expansion, and in terms of profitability also we saw an expansion of around 12%. Dalmia Bharat on the other hand came up with inline set of numbers because net profit increased by 38%, but it was again in line with what the street was expecting. LTI Mindtree on the other hand actually came up with a weak set of numbers because when we talk about revenue in constant currency term, we saw a decline of around 0.6% sequentially, and at the same time, although management has said that margins will improve in FY26, if we talk about Q4, margins remained flat. Rallis again came up with weak set of numbers because revenue declined almost by 17% on a sequential basis, and we also have Syngene because when we talk about numbers, although revenue increased almost by 11%, we saw EBITDA margin actually declining almost by 81 basis points, and we also saw weak set of commentary because now management is saying that the reported revenue will increase in a single digit in FY26. So definitely on the back of numbers as well, we will be watching out on all these stocks in a day to day.
Thank you, Gaurav, for getting us that list of stocks to keep on our radar today. But before we let you go, Axis Bank is all set to report its Q4 numbers, and a stable quarter is expected this time around. So what is the street exactly penciling in?
When we talk about Axis Bank, we have already seen big banks actually outperforming the expectation. But when it comes to Axis Bank, now people are expecting loan book growth to remain somewhere in the range of 8 to 9%, while deposit growth will remain somewhere in the range of 7 to 8%. And as a result, when we talk about net interest income, now they're expecting 6% growth in net interest income on a year-on-year basis. When we talk about Q4, it is usually strong in terms of other income because of the fee income, but because Axis Bank is expected to grow at a level which will be a little lower than the system, they are also expecting fee income to remain a little lower, and as a result, when we talk about PPOP, they are expecting around 4.5% of growth. On the other hand, when we talk about profitability, they are expecting around 6% decline on a year-on-year basis. But let's not forget that in terms of asset quality, they do not see any kind of risk there because credit cost is likely to inch up to a normalized level of 0.9%. But other than that, there are no concerns which are rising in terms of asset quality, at least from the expectations from analysts. Other than that, any kind of commentary on net interest margin is going to be a key thing to watch out for because when we talk about expectation, they are expecting net interest margins to moderate almost to by 3 basis points to around the 3 basis point lower level. Now let's not forget that we have already seen that some of the banks actually reported good set of numbers and expansion in net interest margin. So there is a scope of a positive surprise in this front, but definitely any commentary on the loan book growth and deposit growth and any commentary on the margins front is definitely a key thing to watch out for. But as of for now, we are expecting stable set of numbers from Axis Bank in Q4.
Stable set of numbers is what we're penciling in at this point, at least as far as Axis Bank is concerned. But let's keep it going with earnings. Tata Consumer, in fact, reported an inline set of numbers in the fourth quarter where we have seen a year-on-year jump when it comes to the profit of around 60%. In fact, Snehi is standing by to do the number crunching. Snehi?
Well, absolutely. Largely inline set of numbers coming in for Tata Consumer for quarter 4. Let's break it down, and first let's talk about the underlying volume growth. It's the most important metric to focus. That's coming at 5.9%, a beat versus our expectation of 5%. So volume growth has been robust for Tata Consumer this time. On a consolidated year-on-year basis, revenue was coming at 4,608 crores, an uptick of 17.3%, in line with our estimates. EBITDA too in line at 621 odd crore rupees, which is a downtick of 1.4% year-on-year. What's important to note about the net profit is it has come around 344.8 crore rupees, which is an uptick of 59.2% year-on-year. This has been buoyed by an exceptional gain of 45 crore rupees, which has led to a beat in the PAT. If you don't account for this exceptional gain, then it is a miss coming on the PAT compared to what we were expecting. EBITDA margins also largely in line with our estimates. We were estimating 13.4. It's coming at 13.5 versus 16%, which is down more than 250 bips, but this was largely accounted for this time. Let's understand their India and international business. India biz revenue up 18.4%. International has done 2% growth in terms of constant currency. Segmentally, India beverages is up 9% excluding Organic India. Ready to drink has done very well. It's up 10% in revenue and 17% in volume growth. India food business also up 17% excluding Capital Foods. Now let's talk about salt. Salt revenue is up 13%, which is a slight beat in terms of our revenue expectation. However, volumes are under. They've come in only at 2%. Tata Sampann is up 30% year on year, beat on this front as well. For Starbucks, they've added 6 new stores, bringing the total to 479 across 80 cities. They've also given segmental volumes this quarter onwards. Salt 5%, India packaged beverages and tea 2% growth each, India food 6% volume growth, and ready to drink 17%. Let's talk about what the brokerage view has been. Nuvama has retained their buy, but the target has been hiked to 1,335 from 1,255 earlier. They've marginally cut their FY26, FY27 EPS by 1.3 and 1.7% itself. And lastly, in the con call highlights, the company has said that they expect to see an improvement in EBITDA margins by end of quarter 2 or quarter 3 FY26. So that's the lowdown on Tata Consumer earnings for quarter 4, largely in line.
Okay. And thank you so much, Sneh, for giving us that review of FMCG major Tata Consumer's Q4 result. With that, we're completely timed out on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. Stay tuned as the market takes all the action forward.
In association